Hello everyone, and welcome to Autocrat. On today's episode, we are going to be continuing the saga of Heracles by talking about the very first of his tasks, namely, punching a big kitty.
Yes, or the Nemean lion if you want to be a bit more technical with it.
Exactly. First off, I thought we'd have a reminder about how Heracles got to be given his task and why, so you're going to tell us that.
Yep. So Apollodorus tells us that Heracles was told he was to serve his cousin Eurystheus for 12 years and to perform the 10 labours imposed on him, and when he did all of this, he would then become immortal, which is a nice little incentive. This was in atonement for killing his own family in a fire, as we've seen previously, although there is a different version where Diodorus says he went mad, tried to kill his nephew Iolaus, he then ran away, and Heracles came across his family and shot them with a bow and arrow, thinking they were his enemies. Because as we've seen, Heracles was driven mad by Hera.
Exactly. Now, the Nemean lion.
Yes.
The story recalled by Apollodorus is as such. Eurystheus first instructed him to fetch the skin of the Nemean lion.
Okay.
This lion is a creature that can't be harmed by conventional weapons, and only human's hand can hurt it.
Okay, so basically it's very difficult to kill, because I imagine it's difficult to get close enough to a lion where you can do anything, like, say, wrap your arms around it.
Exactly. The Nemean lion is a beast which is fathered by Typhon, or possibly by Orthus and Echinida, if you believe the theogony.
Okay. Friendly reminder that Orthus and Echidna are mother and son, which means this is not the throwback to episode 3 I was particularly hoping for.
Now, just a silly question coming up that you're going to answer.
Yep.
Which species of lion might this have been, if Heracles had been a real historical figure?
Okay, well, Europe used to have a species of lion called the cave lion. I believe it's Panthera spelaea. However, this went extinct about 14,000 years before the present, and this was probably as a consequence of global warming, which took place around 14,700 years ago. Modern lions, as we know them now, the species Panthera leo, then shows up in Europe around 6,000 to 8,000 years before the present. These then die out a few millennia later because of hunting. They died out in southern Greece before the ancient Greek period, and could be found in the north during ancient Greek times. They are last heard of in the middle of Greece in the 600s BCE, although another source says there are reports in Delphi and Kastanas as late as the period between 80 and 100 CE. We've placed Heracles after the flood, which the Parian Stela places at 1530 BCE, so by this point the cave lion would already have been dead. So I'm basically saying, let's assume for the fun of it that if Heracles had been a historical figure and the Nemean lion had been real, it would have been the modern lion Panthera leo.
Nice. Now, back to the actual task. Nemea is a region in Greece located in the northeast of the Peloponnese.
Okay.
This is the roundish peninsula of Greece at the very south of the country, to put a bit of geographical context. Apollodorus tells us that Heracles stayed at the house of a man called Molochus while travelling out to face the lion. Molochus was about to make a sacrifice, presumably on his behalf. However, Heracles told him to wait 30 days. If he came back before that time, it was to be a sacrifice thanking Zeus. However, if he did not return, he could be assumed to be dead and the sacrifice could be to him in his status as the dead hero. So he sets off on his way then.
Okay, that's quite a strange good luck charm.
It's also a bit like of an ego boost for him. He encounters the lion and they fight.
Yep.
Heracles first fired an arrow at him, but then realized the lion could not be harmed.
Okay, so either no one knew that information, that you can't harm it with, say, swords or iron or bronze or whatever it is, or they just didn't tell him.
Or he just thought he's more special and his arrows are more special.
Yeah, I like the idea that Heracles was given a memo which says, by the way, don't fight it with conventional weapons, whatever you do, and he just left that on the desk. And it's just unopened on the table at Eurystheus' palace.
Heracles then charged at the lion, who hid in its lair, with 2 entrances in Mount Trytus.
Okay, I suppose if you can't do anything else, just running at the problem, despite all advice to the contrary, might be a good way of tackling it.
Exactly. As the lion went in one, Heracles went to the other and blocked it off. He then went into the second entrance and attacked the lion by putting his arm around its neck and holding on tight until the lion could not breathe anymore.
Okay.
He then put it on his shoulder and carried it away to Mycenae.
Okay, so we strangled the lion and we're walking off with it now. So he then returned to Mallorcus on the 30th day, so at the very moment the deadline was to expire, and he arrived at the man's house just as he was about to sacrifice because he believed Heracles was dead. Instead, the man happily sacrificed in thanks to Zeus because, well, fairly obviously, Heracles has just walked into his front yard with a massive lion on his shoulders. He's clearly not dead.
Exactly. Back in the capital, Eurystheus is so intimidated by his cousin that he did not allow him into the city, but instead told him to show off his victory at the gates. He also had a jar made of bronze built, which was hidden under the ground, which he could hide in. Apparently, all his instructions about the task were sent from this jar and relayed to Heracles by a deputy called Corpreus.
Okay. I seem to remember, although I didn't research this, that in a lot of ancient Greek art, you have Heracles just dangling various terrifying monsters over this jar while Eurystheus looks absolutely terrified.
The story recalled by Guerber is a bit different, and you're going to tell us why.
Yeah, it's a bit different in the sense that Heracles set out to find and destroy the monster in the Nemean forest. The lion had apparently been carrying off cattle, sheep, men, women, and children to eat, so basically doing the standard monster things of terrorizing the countryside. All the people of Nemea tried to warn Heracles about the danger, telling him many have tried and failed to beat this monster in the past. He was even told that he wouldn't return alive. However, Heracles would not be warned. He remembered himself strangling snakes easily in his infancy, and surely this lion is just a big snake, really. How hard can it be? So he charged into the forest, tracked the lion down, and strangled him. He then skinned the lion, and the shaggy pelt became his covering of choice. It was so big that it covered his whole body, protecting him during subsequent tasks. So that brings us to the end of the first task. The Nemean lion is dead. We'll see what the next task has in store.
See you next time for the next Heracles story or another story of mythology.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? It's possible that we'll be carrying on with the next task. It's also possible we'll be talking about Bellerophon. We haven't quite sorted out yet how we're going to do these tasks, 1 per episode, 2 per episode, etc., and whether we're going to alternate them with other stories to keep it fresh.
Exactly. So go have a look on our website for the latest fun stuff we put on there.
Yeah.
Have a look on our Instagram and have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, have a great week. I suppose all we can really say is that there will be an episode.